my mom who raised me, out of anger, boasting voice, she says, "You're not my son." So just imagine at 16 years old, that's what I hear. You have a biological mother, you have a biological father, and you have 5 siblings. At 23, I'm a bouncer in Las Vegas. I'm living a reckless lifestyle, but all I cared about was money, sex, women, all the things. Hey, I have a question for the congregation today. He says, how much does God love the world? God loves the world so much that he would give his son away. And I'm sitting there next to the man who gave me away at birth. And in an instant, 33 years of confusion, anger, frustration melted off of me in a moment, and I gave my life to Jesus in that moment. Here I am sitting with an eviction notice on my door, my last $1,000 to my name. 30 days into me doing it, there was $17,000 that was sitting in my Facebook account.
Top 3 things that they have to be doing.
Yep, so the first thing that I would say.
Welcome to The Bottom Line with the Baldovinos. We are so excited. We have a great guest with us today. Enjoyed even the back room conversations, and I am so looking forward to this conversation. We're going to be talking about content, social media content. You're a coach, but you have a crazy story, a wild story that we were just listening to. And we'd love to jump in on that, Josiah. So maybe, Josiah, give us a little introduction before we get into the social media, because you're a business coach also with the stuff that you're doing online. But why don't you tell us a little bit of your background? You grew up in Northern California, but tell us a little bit of what happened where your parents, who you thought were your parents, were not your parents at 16 years old, and things dramatically came to a halt. So why don't we start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm Josiah Lipate. I'm a content creator coach, and I love Jesus. And honestly, this story really starts at my birth, which is kind of wild. So I was adopted at birth. My aunt and my uncle, they could not have kids. And so my aunt and my uncle, they approached my biological parents, and they let them know the situation, that they couldn't have kids. And my parents loved the Lord. My aunt and my uncle,
your biological
parents, they loved the Lord, right? My aunt and my uncle, they didn't know the Lord. But my parents, they prayed over it. My dad was a firm follower of Christ. He just loved the Lord so much. And he believed that children belonged to God before they belonged to him. And so they prayed over it. They gave me over to this family to be raised as their own child. And it's super wild, a crazy kind of story behind that. My aunt and my uncle, my aunt was actually of Tongan royalty. So my family comes from a small island in the South Pacific called Tonga. And so my mom, my aunt who raised me, she was of Tongan royalty. So we would have the king of Tonga come over and prime ministers and all of that. So I imagine being raised up in that environment, right? The environment was all about serving the king, serving the foreign dignitaries that would come over, and so that was the household that I was raised in. And the agreement when I was given away at birth was that I would have no contact with my biological family, right? So here I am, I'm being raised as a kid in this environment of royalty and servanthood and all of this stuff. And all I wanted to be was just a kid, right? Like I just wanted to be a kid, play with my friends, but my life was drastically different from what most people knew. I never really talked about it with anybody because I only knew what I knew growing up as a kid. So here I am, I'm a kid trying to figure it out. I love sports, I love music, I love being creative, but my parents who raised me, they wanted me to be a lawyer, a doctor, something successful because it would show status within the Tongan royalty, right? So here I am, I'm trying to figure out my life, and then at 16 years old, I don't remember necessarily what I did. I may have done something stupid, but my mom who raised me, out of anger, we're getting into a shouting match, and she says, with a boasting voice, she says, "You're not my son."
Wow.
That's at 16 years old. So just imagine at 16 years old, that's what I hear. Okay?
So that's how you found out that you are not their sons.
Yeah.
Through a fight, boom.
Blunt, right? It just showed up just like that. You're not my son. And here I am at 16 years old, and I'm trying to comprehend. I'm like, can you say that again?
What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, say that again. Like, what did you just say? You're not my son. You don't belong to me. You have a biological mother, you have a biological father, and you have 5 siblings. You got 2 sisters and 3 brothers. What are you talking about? Imagine if you heard that at 16 years old. What I believed in that moment.
A question for you.
Yeah.
Did you have brothers and sisters with your aunt and uncle? So were you a lone child?
No, this is why the story is just so wild, bro. So I was adopted from my uncle's side of the family, and then I had a sister that I was raised with that was adopted from my mom, from my aunt's side of the family. Is that wild?
Boy.
It's just wild, right? So, yeah, I go and see this. I tell my mom who raised me, I said, I want to go see my family. Who is this? Who are these people, right? So I go over and I spend a weekend with my biological family, my biological mom and dad, my 3 brothers, and my 2 sisters. Okay, I'm 16 years old. I walk into this environment, and I don't know what's going on, right? I'm trying to figure this out.
Because you did not grow up as a Christian with your aunt and uncle.
Right.
You grew up non-Christian home,
Right.
but with royalty mindsets.
Yes.
Okay, so you're coming into this brand new environment, new home, finding out they're your parents, and that's where you're walking in on.
That's what I'm walking in on, right? With that mindset. And it's a new atmosphere. The first experience that I had of this family was they ushered me into the living room. We all sitting down on the ground, and my biological father, he sits us down, he reads scripture, and he prays over us. And bro, that was weird to me, okay? Because I didn't grow up in that atmosphere. I don't know what all of this scripture is. I don't know what this prayer is or anything like that. I don't understand it, right? And I also don't understand who are these people, right? I'm just meeting them. I'm 16 years old. So anyways, I have a good time with my siblings, getting to know them and all of that stuff. And I go back home, okay? And I just continue to go through my life. I maybe had contact with my siblings every now and again. We exchange, phone numbers, whatever. Then at 23 years old, I get contacted by my oldest biological brother. He says, hey, I'm getting married in Arizona. Would you come out? I said, yeah, sure, I'll come out. So I go to Arizona, same thing. My dad sits us down, reads scripture, he prays over us, right? Still weird to me. At that time, at 23, I'm a bouncer in Las Vegas. I'm living a reckless lifestyle, but all I cared about was money, sex, women, all the things, right? That's all I cared about. Status, okay? And I go into this environment again. My dad sits us down, reads scripture, prays over us. Still weird to me, right? Time goes by, and what I started to notice is that I had a calloused heart because of still confusion around this whole family thing. I got my aunt and my uncle, who I still call mom and dad. I got my actual mom and dad, who I'm still trying to figure out how to address them. I got brothers and sisters. I'm still trying to figure out how to address them. And I'm trying to grow up in life. I'm growing up in the nightclub industry. That's what's teaching me of what adulthood was at that moment, right? So here I am, fumbling and stumbling through life, trying to figure it out. Years go by, about 10 years go by. My biological sister hits me up. She says, hey, we're coming out to Vegas. We want to see you. And as I'm sitting there at the dinner table, it's my sister, my biological sister, her husband, and their 2 kids. So it's my niece and my nephew. I'm sitting across the table from them. I'm looking at them. I'm like, these are my nieces. This is my niece and nephew. I never experienced that in my life. There was something that opened up in my heart in that moment, right? My sister says, Dad would love to see you at Easter service in Arizona. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll come out, whatever, no problem, I'll come out. And she also says, but I also came out here to tell you he also has cancer. So I'm like, okay, I really got to go now, right? So I go out to Arizona Easter weekend. I arrive on a Friday, okay, Friday night. And my dad, just like before, he sat us down, he read scripture, he prayed over us. It's a room filled with my siblings and their kids and their spouses. It's a huge room, right? And I remember on that Friday night, my dad said these words. He said, your job is to go out into the world and tell the story. I didn't even know what that was, right? What story are you talking about? I don't know what story are you talking about, right? Anyways, Friday goes by, Saturday goes by, have a great time with the family. Sunday morning comes, okay? Time to go to church. I didn't grow up in a church atmosphere. All I knew was I had a suit from the nightclub, okay? So I'm suited and booted because that's all that's what I thought you had to wear at church. But they're in Scottsdale, Arizona during springtime. It's hot outside. Everybody shows up to church super casual with shorts and a t-shirt. I'm sitting there with a suit, right? Anyways, I'm sitting there, all my siblings, their spouses, their kids, my nieces and nephews, and my mom and my dad. I'm sitting next to my biological dad. I witnessed this service. The service was incredible. It was amazing. And the pastor comes up and he says, hey, I have a question for the congregation today. He says, how much does God love the world? And there was a pause in the room. I felt like it was standing still. I was sitting on the edge of my seat trying to understand what's the answer to this question he's asking. And he says, God loves the world so much that he would give his son away. And I'm sitting there next to the man who gave me away at birth. And in an instant, 33 years of confusion, anger, frustration melted off of me in a moment, and I gave my life to Jesus in that moment. Wow. And here's the wild thing. The story didn't end there. So I go back home after this Sunday this weekend that I experienced with my biological family for the first time, my heart wide open, but also curious of who is this God that would orchestrate me to be in this moment in time. Get back to Vegas, and 10 days later, I receive a phone call. Your dad's in the hospital. He's battling cancer and he's losing his battle. I go out and I spend my dad's last 17 hours with him. And when he passed, the thing that rang true was what he said on that Friday night when I arrived. He said, your job is to go out into the world and tell the story. And so I made a commitment in that moment that the rest of my life, I would commit to telling the world the story of Jesus Christ, the one who saves, the God who loves the world so much so that he would give his son away. And when I made that commitment, I went back to Vegas. I was like, I'm done with this. I sold everything that I owned. I packed a one piece of luggage, bought a one-way plane ticket to Arizona to be with my family, my biological family. So God called my biological father home to heaven, but he called me home to be with my biological family. Wow. And with my grieving mother who just lost her husband of 44 years. And here I am spending time with her. So that's like crazy story, right?
Super wild.
And I find myself in that position, starting my life over from scratch in that moment in 2017 when I gave my life to Christ.
So if you wouldn't mind, just let me ask this question. Like, what do you do now with your parents that you grew up with, your aunt and uncle?
Yeah.
What does that relationship look like back then?
Yeah.
Like in that transition, because I understand where you're coming from, but I want to know, like, how did you deal with that relationship too?
Yeah, I will tell you what, that relationship was rocky initially because I had already built so many walls around family in general. So there was a rocky situation even then. But then as I began to know who Christ was and understanding what reconciliation is, what forgiveness is, and all of that, I went back and did my duty, and repaired those relationships. So,
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you took years to develop a new relationship with your biological family and built a new way of looking at a family and what that looks like.
Yeah.
So, and God. So now you start walking with God, start walking with your family. How did you develop into the man of God that you are now? Is that some of those ingredients there in that time season?
Yeah. Well, so it's just crazy how God, when we really don't understand until we look back and connect the dots, right? So there was even a period of time of like 7 years that I did a lot of work in personal development, in the personal development space, right? Emotional intelligence and all of that stuff. Did a bunch of different trainings. And I think all of that prepared me for the moment when I could recognize, man, I am a sinner broken before the Lord, and I need something more than just ethereal hype. You know what I'm saying? Because what I found in the personal development space was there's people with a lot of emotional intelligence, but they lack acknowledgement of the God who created them. Then I get to the church and I find that there are a lot of people who are spiritually intelligent, yet lack the emotional intelligence to have a conversation with people, right? But I think all of it that got, like all of my experiences from nightclub to preparation when I was a kid to all the way to the moment that I came to know who he was, it prepped me so that I wouldn't waste any time. And he fast forwarded that like track. Like I went in, started serving, growing in the church, like spending time in the word daily. Like it was just, I think he prepped me so that I could live that life immediately.
And then you started getting into ministry life and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. So what was even like because you said you were in nightclub industry, you're a bouncer. How do you even transition from that bouncer stage to even like into ministry? Like you said you left Vegas. Do you just leave Vegas and go what? Like what was the next step there?
Oh yeah, I just left it all together.
And you just moved to Arizona.
Moved to Arizona, straight on faith, bro. And I moved in with my grieving biological mom at 33 years old. Like it was wild even for me to think like, man, you about to move in with your mom? Like the world thinking you weird and moving in with your mom. But there was a lot of time that we had to catch up on, right? But there was even a lot of healing there. There was a lot of growth, daily through that entire process. So yeah, got plugged into a church immediately, got discipled, like got into the word and understood what it's like to actually live this Christian life out.
Love it. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit.
Yep.
Because I heard that, you gave your life to Jesus, you're being discipled, you're growing in God, you're being connected to your family again. But then you found yourself kind of with everything removed from your life all over again. And then how old were you when that happened? And then tell us a little bit, like, because I know a little bit of your story. You found yourself with an eviction notice. All the things that you knew as normal in ministry are all taken away from you. You have a little bit of money left. And then you kind of just break into a new space online. Because I love that story, because I see a lot of people that need not just hope, but also like they're kind of in the dark still, even though social media has been around, they're still in the dark of what's actually going on online. So why don't you tell us a little bit of your story of where you found yourself after ministry's removed from you. So let us go there.
Yeah, I'll share this. So I'm in ministry. I'm serving in ministry. Let me just say, all the way from when I was a kid, all the way through growing up as an adult into my life in ministry, the basis of all of it, when I look back at it, was all like achievement, right? Achievement and performance. That's what everything But I had no idea. That's all I knew in life, right? That's all I knew of how to gain love, attention, affection from people was through how much you perform, right? All the claps, right? And here's where it all happened last February. While the world was clapping, I was collapsing behind the scenes, okay? So here I am in ministry. Here I am in doing the thing.
You're in full-time ministry, 7 days a week.
Oh,
you're busy.
And by the world stand. See, here's the thing: the world will clap for you, and they will clap loudly, and it will feel amazing, right? And unfortunately, in some cultures of ministry, it's the same thing. Performance is clapped for. Achievement is praised by some people, right? Yeah. But the person who's getting the claps is oftentimes there are things behind the scenes that, if undealt with or unaddressed, can break a man, right? Yeah. And that's where I found myself. Okay, so February, the rug is pulled from under me, right? And I was faced with the decision of, Josiah, do you believe who Jesus says that he is? And would you walk in integrity as a man of God, even if the ministry was pulled away from you, even if the success was pulled away from you, even with the performance and the achievement pulled away from you, right? So I had everything pulled from under me.
Because you were a part also of a very large ministry.
Yeah, huge
ministry.
So I'm talking about I'm on 7 different campuses, high school campuses a week. And at each high school campus is anywhere from 300 to 800 students that are showing up every lunch period. I'm bringing pizzas, donuts. I'm talking about my car smell like donuts all the time. I'm just students showing up in the ministry, baptisms happening left to right. And when we look at it, I'm believing, man, God is moving. And I'm not saying that he didn't.
Yeah.
But there were parts of me as a man that were unaddressed that needed to be undone. And the undoing was this, okay? It came to a point where I realized that because I was so inundated as a child through adulthood to achievement and performance, okay? When I came to know the Lord, I knew the steps to be a good disciple and do the thing. Do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, right? Yeah. I knew how to be a good disciple. I didn't know how to be a son of the Father.
Without the performance.
And so when I go to the scriptures and Jesus is being baptized and a dove descends from heaven and falls upon him and the clouds open up and there's a voice that says, "This is my son in whom I am well pleased." Jesus was confirmed in his identity before he was confirmed in his ministry and what he did. And so if Jesus had to have that, how much so do I need that as a man? But I didn't know that. I was, I didn't understand that. I didn't grasp that. And it wasn't until I literally healed from that. Like the Lord brought me through that process of knowing who I am as a son. Yeah. Forget the claps. Forget who's going to clap for you. Forget who's going to clap for the achievement and the performance and all of that stuff. Now, I'm not saying don't work hard. I'm not saying don't go after it with godly excellence. I'm saying first and foremost, I am a son of the Most High God. And from that moment, bro, to go from ministry pulled from under me, understanding my identity of Christ, here I am sitting with an eviction notice on my door, my last $1,000 to my name. What do you do? Oh, Lord, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, Lord, help.
I need help ASAP, okay? And one of the things that I had thought that I was going to do was I thought maybe I should go make faceless YouTube channel, right? Because I was embarrassed of what happened to me in ministry. I was embarrassed where I was financially. Right? I'm 40 years old at that time. This is last year. 40 years old. How you a 40-year-old? I'm thinking in my mind, how you a 40-year-old man? You don't have the finances to be able to carry you forward. How you a 40-year-old man? And, right? Still, I was thinking that in my mind, but then it all all of a sudden hit me. Man, God, help me in this moment. Guide me to what I got to do. So I thought I had to make these faceless YouTube channels because I didn't want to show my face on social media. I paid my last $1,000 to have a coach to teach me how to make faceless YouTube channels.
No way.
All right. So
You paid someone to help you do that.
my last $1,000.
Oh, my
Okay.
goodness.
But here's the thing, what happened. Okay. I get into my first coaching call with this dude, and he basically says, Josiah, would you introduce yourself to the community? I said, yeah, sure. I've been making Christian content at that time for about 6-7 years. This is what I've been doing, but I'm here to make faceless YouTube channels. And he said something that offended me. He said, Josiah, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. I was like, what you mean? I paid you to belong here. What you talking about? This is my last $1,000. He literally said the word. Not only did he offend me, what he said next actually is the thing that changed the game for me. And I believe that this was the Lord speaking through him. He said, you need to complete what you started. And for me, that was building this platform that I built to honor the Lord with. So
Was it connected to what your dad had told you about you got to tell the story?
Telling the story.
So that's why you started it in the first place,
That's
because
why
you wanted to tell the story.
Tell the story of Jesus Christ and everything that I do, big or small, don't matter what it is, right? And so I went back to building that platform, and I went all in, not embarrassed, not ashamed of what I just came out of, but fully confident in who God created me to be. And in the first 30 days of me doing this, right, like some funds came in, right? It was like super cool. It was enough for me to pay my bills.
No, let's hear the amount. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Not just some funds. I
Yeah.
want to hear that.
Wait, and did the faceless YouTube guy give you your $1,000?
Your $1,000 back? Can I have my money back?
Okay, that's the thing. I thought about this. I was like, I didn't ask him for the money, and here's why. Okay. I really believe that what he told me
was worth $1,000.
But it was the Lord who was speaking through him. And here's the thing, right? Sometimes you pay for one thing that completely changed your life around, right?
That's true. Yep.
And totally worth it, right? 30 days into me doing it, there was $17,000 that was sitting in my Facebook account, right?
Come on.
Bro, I freaked out.
Come on.
Okay? I freaked out. Like, I told my mom about it. She was like, are you excited about this? I was like, no, I'm terrified because I'd never made that much before. And then also, if you live with the lack mindset, here I am thinking I'm going to fumble this opportunity, and it's only a matter of time for I snap of fingers and it's gone, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I called Meta. I was like, y'all lying to me. Where's this money coming from? And they said, that's yours. And I said, okay, all right, God, what do you want me to do with this? I tithed, hired my first 2 employees, and I said, we're going to build a business from this, and we're going to honor the Lord with it. And the next month, 24K. Next month, 25. Next month, 37, right? And it just kept going. And so the fact that God worked, I'll just say this, God worked a miracle last year in me. And it had nothing to do with the money that was being made, but it had everything to do with healing me from the inside out of the very thing that had been holding me hostage all my life.
It's incredible. So now you are doing this on a regular basis, creating online social media content.
Yep.
And the way we met you is you now are a coach online, teaching people to do what you did.
Yep.
Over and over again.
Yep.
And so now you have a whole bunch of students that you coach and teach. You also are doing 5-day trainings regularly on teaching people how you did what you did. But you want to teach people not just to be consistent, but you're also teaching people how to make money online, correct? Why don't you break that down a little bit?
Yeah. So, through making the content myself and this huge, massive financial benefit that has come in, I realized that one of my greatest things that I believe God has created in me was to teach and to coach. I believe those are massive gifts that God has given me. And so I'm knowing that I'm in the position, I've done it. I wanted to teach others how to do it. Because when I take a look at the landscape of content creators in general, they They are making the content, but they're not making the money from the content. Most content creators are broke, right? Or they don't have the funds that are consistently coming in from this. So I saw a need in the marketplace for that. And I also saw there's small business owners who have great products and offers that they have to offer into the marketplace. They just don't have the eyeballs for it.
Yeah.
So I saw another need in there. And then the bigger need, look, this is all ministry for me. Yeah. All right. This is ministry disguised. This is a ministry disguised as a business. Okay, so you thought this is a business. This is all ministry. What I tell people is I help you win without wandering. Okay, win without wandering. What does that mean? My favorite book of all time, the Bible, inside of there, right? Because I always teach from biblical principles. This is not Josiah making it up. This is not my thing. This is all principles, biblical principles that I teach from, right? So because of that, when I say win without wandering in the Bible, y'all already know this. When the Israelites are delivered from Egypt, right, by the hand of Moses, like God working through Moses, right, the amount of time that it should have taken them to get from Egypt to the promised land should have been less than 2 weeks. Yeah. But it took them how long? 40 years. Yeah. Why? It wasn't because God lacked power. It wasn't because they didn't lack guidance. They had a clear direction, and they also had a leader. They had spiritual provision. They had everything that they needed to get to the promised land on time. But they didn't make it to their destination because they were wandering. The people wandered. They were moving but not progressing, right? Yep. So when I say I help people win without wandering, what I'm saying is I help you reach your proverbial promised land through your content and monetizing that without wasting 40 years of your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, so now let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you give us like 3 things that we could be doing? Anyone, like someone's listening, like
they want to do content.
They want to create content.
Yeah. Or maybe they are.
Yeah, maybe they already started. Maybe they're not monetized yet, or they just don't have the eyeballs yet. What would you tell them if they want to get started or have started to strengthen what they're doing, strengthen their resolve, so they start seeing success? What would be 3 things, top 3 things that they have to be doing?
Yep. So the first thing that I would say is a phrase that I would use, which is imitate until you innovate. All right. What that means is identifying the top 3 to 5 content creators who are doing what you want to do at the level in which you desire to do it. All right. And what you're going to do is not consume their content. You're going to study their content. Okay. So when you shift from being a consumer of the content to a student of, you start to see frameworks that exist inside of the content that you can use, right? We know the phrase that says success leaves clues. Well, why wouldn't I follow the people who are going before me that are already successful at what I want to do, right? Yeah. And so when I say imitate until you innovate, that means follow someone who's doing it at the level in which you want to do it until you can actually innovate the process for yourself.
Yeah, I notice a lot of people, they try to be their own person. They want to be unique. They want to stand out. So they think that they're going to do it their way instead of following someone else, how they got successful. And at the very least, doing, I think mentorship is actually not just, you and me having a cup of coffee. I actually think mentorship is being your shadow till I understand what you do, why you do it. Then I can be my own after I figured out your model. But a lot of people in their own pride, arrogance, some of it ignorance, is really just to me doing it my own way instead of me following your way first until I figured it out. And then I can go, okay, now I'm going to do it my own way.
That's right. And so that reminds me of like, even when I was progressing in ministry, for instance, the very first time I stepped into the pulpit, I actually didn't sound like the Josiah who speaks today. I sounded like the top 3 to 5 preachers that I would view on a consistent basis, right? Yeah. I didn't plagiarize their things, but their mannerisms showed up in what I was doing. And I followed those frameworks until I found my voicing, right? So imitate until you innovate. And once you have reached that point of innovation, you're doing the thing, you understand the frameworks, then you can originate. right? That's when you really stand out in the marketplace. But until you do those steps first, you can't get to that originate.
Quick question. So to expand on the frameworks thing, I remember when I first met you in Austin, you were like, I was like, yeah, give me some sauce on content creation stuff. And you told me this thing about a Mr. Beast framework. Maybe you could explain that, because I feel like that was like a really good analogy of like what you're saying right now.
Yeah. So there's this video of Mr. Beast where he drew this massive circle, right? He drew this massive circle. He got 100 people to stand in this circle. Okay. And he basically says, last person to leave this circle, I'm going to give you, I don't know how much the amount was. It was like $1 million, maybe $100,000, something like that. Right. Yeah. And then he said, the last person to leave the circle, you get $100,000, let's say, right? Last person leaves the circle, they get the reward, payoff on the video. Wow, there was tension inside of there. There was a whole bunch of drama inside of that whole video, right? Everything that people love psychologically as an audience member, right? Yeah. So a consumer would look at that piece of content and they would say, wow, great video. But someone who studies the content will say, what are the frameworks that worked in this video and how can I duplicate it? Well, there was a guy who took that framework and he made the exact same video using the exact same frameworks, but a little bit different, okay? This guy drew a circle or drew a square instead of a circle, okay? And instead of 100 people, he got 10 people, okay? And instead of $100,000, he said, I got $10 for you, okay? Okay. Last person to leave this circle or leave this square, I got $10 for you, okay? But here's the thing. The video contained the same drama, the same type of tension inside of there, right? The same type of story building and build up, okay? And guess what? That video performed even better than Mr. Beast's original video. Why? Because the frameworks work, the principles work, right? Yeah. And that's when my mind clicks out. I always love just breaking things down to the basis so I could understand, so I could do for myself, right? So that's what I teach people how to do. How do you see the frameworks? How do you see content differently than how you've been seeing it?
I love that.
That's fire.
So, okay, so that's number one. Innovate until you can originate. So what would be number two?
Yeah.
Learn frameworks, or would that be still number one?
So starting with those frameworks, right? Understand the styles of content that you want to make, right? Using the example of people gone before you, right? The next part of it is, now that I've done the market research, if you will, I've found the style, I've found the content creators who influence what I'm going to do. What do I do with that? You got to get your reps in, all right? And I know that you've probably heard this before, but you've probably heard it. You need to hear it again if you haven't applied it, right? You have to get the reps in, okay? And there are reps that you're going to have that are going to be absolutely terrible. I pray that there are videos that exist of me that no one ever sees, okay? I used to do TikTok dances and all of that stuff, right?
You did not.
Bro.
You did?
Bro.
Come on.
Bro, don't put that in the B-roll, okay? Don't put that in the B-roll. I've hidden that from the timeline, okay? You're never going to see those videos, okay? But there were moments, because that's what I thought needed to have happen, right? But you got to get the reps in, because you have to get through the process and getting those reps in. It's wild to me that people think that this is going to just somehow suddenly happen on rep number one. Yeah. You know, but there are people have different philosophies on this. You got to get at least 100 reps in, or whatever that is. I say this: get as many reps as necessary for you to break through your own thought processes so you can understand what actually works.
I love that. I just watched a guy, they were talking about podcasting. Mm-hmm. And, this is a new podcast. So I wanted to just, figure out some things that maybe tools, kits, little things that I could grab a hold of as far as podcast. But the guy actually said the same thing you're talking about. You need the reps. But in the reps, what you're going to want to do is quit. Mm-hmm. In doing it over and over again, even if you're not any good at it, you're still going to want to quit, because you're not seeing eyeballs. You're not seeing the success. You're not seeing the monetization and so on. And he said, I wanted to quit at episode 49. And 49 is a lot. Mm-hmm. If you're doing one a week, that's 49 weeks. Mm-hmm. And he goes, but it wasn't until my 52 week that something just blew up. And the other ones were not getting any eyeballs. But all of a sudden, I did episode 52. And, I had a guest on, and that episode just blew up. But not only that, that episode didn't blow up. Not only that one, but my number 30 blew up, and my number 26 blew up, and my 15th blew up. And I was like, wow, if I would have quit at 49, then the 52 wouldn't have gone off. And now he's made, in like 5 years, over $10 million on podcasting. And all because he put in the reps, but didn't quit. He obviously got better and better over and over again doing it. Became a better communicator. But there is something about endurance and perseverance that even in our Christian walk, we want to quit. That's why the Bible says in Luke 18:1, pray and don't quit. But because we actually want to quit because we don't have our answers yet. That's our temptation. We're so fragile in getting our instant solutions and including in business or online stuff, we want to quit. And so I just love the story of the innovation. Number 2, put in the reps. Now, Josiah, what is number 3?
Yeah, well, so number 2 anchors into number 3, right? You got to get your reps. And you just talked about the guy who did the podcasting, right? And he had to get the 50-second rep, right? And I would assert that he didn't get to 52 because he didn't have a vision, right? He didn't get to 52 because he lacked purpose. And so that's what I would say for number 3. Anchor the content that you make for a purpose and know what that is. Okay. Is it to, some people might say, oh, mine's to build a business, or I have an offer on the back end, or I want to monetize it. I will say this, the purpose is far greater than what you thought it was. So my purpose was to wake up every morning and make the content so that I could serve people. Remember, we talking about tell the story. Okay. So if it's anchored in tell the story, guess what I'm going to do when I wake up? Tell the story. And then guess what I'm going to do tomorrow? Tell the story. What I'm going to do the next day? Tell the story. So it was anchored in something that was inside of me that was way bigger than money, way bigger than a like, way bigger than a follow, way bigger than a comment, way bigger than a hater in the comments. Okay. So in the moments when I wanted to quit, and don't trust me, I wanted to quit. There's even days when I don't want to make the content, but it's anchored in something greater. Okay. So we got imitate until you innovate until you originate, right? Then number 2, get those reps in, but those reps must be anchored in something greater.
Love that.
Yep.
Yeah. I always think about, because I've started at different things in my life. I always think that have a saying for my own mind that vision gives pain purpose. Vision gives struggle purpose. Vision gives my reps purpose. So if we don't write, and I think it's writing down is necessary, not just thinking about it, but writing it down. And I even think we have to tell somebody because when I tell somebody, it also keeps me accountable. So vision gives pain purpose, but also I have to tell somebody else, and I have to write it down just like Habakkuk says. So I write it down, make it plain. So I totally agree with you. And it's almost what I just did this weekend. While I'm listening to this podcast, I'm going 100%. And it is way more than money, way more than monetization, because it's got to be serving people. I think finding a solution that serves people, helps people, is always going to fulfill something in me, in us, that is far greater than getting paid.
That's right.
Getting paid is just a bonus.
Yeah.
It's just an extra. And that's the vision that it has to be inside me, just like what you just said.
That's right.
Any other thoughts that you would say if someone is getting started or, has been going for a little bit and wants to quit? What would you say to them?
Yeah.
With your challenge.
So, we'll talk about the challenge.
Let's talk about the challenge.
Yeah. Well, the challenge is basically 5 days where me and my team will spend with individuals, and we will walk through everything from your niche to your message to honing in your hooks to the one framework that I believe that every content creator lacks in, but also needs to improve on, right? And I'm saying every content creator, the one thing, right? So we cover those things, but then we flip into monetization. How do you scale those things? And so it's 5 days where me and my team, we literally break down content. We give you feedback live on what's working, what's not working. I would say this, I really am grateful for the team that I get to work with, because we're actually all content creators. Okay, there's not a single person on the team that doesn't make content in some way, shape, or form. So we coach you from a place of being on the playing field. Okay, so like if Phil Jackson, right? He's known for coaching Michael Jordan, but many people don't even acknowledge that he was also a great NBA player himself. So he is a player coach, right? I'm a player coach. Okay, I don't coach you from thought processes of videos that I watched of other people saying stuff. I'm teaching you from a practical place because I'm in the game. Okay, and wasn't in the game years ago, and then I'm giving you outdated stuff. Now I'm in the game daily. I'm studying daily. We're working daily in the game. So imagine having a coach that's giving you game time adjustments for the landscape of social media right now, right? Not what happened last week or the week before that. So in that 5-day challenge, we coach you from that perspective, right? We get onto the playing field with
two things. Tell me about what's the name of the challenge.
Yeah.
And then tell me the times that you usually have them. But you have VIP and then you have general sessions. Tell me what those two look like as well.
Yeah, so it's called the 5-day Viral Impact Challenge, right? So we have a VIP session where we will answer questions that people might have, right? We'll also address, the major questions that most people will have when they come into the room. We want to meet you right where you're at. And then we also use that time to give people literally live feedback on their pages and content. So if you want to be put onto the hot seat and put your content out there for everybody to see, but also to learn from, that's what happens inside of the VIP. Then the general sessions is where we cover those things from message to niche to getting down to the nitty gritty of your content and monetizing it.
I love that.
Yep.
One of the things when I think about what you're doing, and I find it so necessary, it's even for business owners. Because, a lot of times we have a product or a service of some kind, and I find the people that are separate, I should say it like this. What distinguishes those guys that are making online content compared to everybody else who just has a product or service is that they have a personal brand online. So what you're really doing is helping people create personal brands. Is that right?
I'm big on personal brands.
Break it down a little bit.
Yeah, personal brand is absolutely necessary. And especially, so here's what I noticed, okay? A lot of content creators are terrible business people. And a lot of business owners are terrible content creators. So there's a need in both, but they are addressed in one singular problem: content, right? So what we're helping people build is a personal brand, right? Because there are brands that will come and go, but your name will always remain. Does that make sense? So when you're building we have people who are building massive businesses on the back of their name. That doesn't change, right? You are who you're going to be. Right. So building a personal brand is so important, whether you're a content creator, but especially if you're a business owner. You have to build that personal brand.
I love it.
That's fire. I think that's everything for today. Thank you so much, Josiah. Thanks for coming on. If you guys want to follow Josiah, we'll put all his handles down in the description. Feel free to share this conversation with someone if you found it encouraging, and hope this bless you guys.